Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. So we talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Rush Jaffrey. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our video. The Michigan Wolverines and the Louisville Cardinals for the last couple weeks have been fighting for Dusty May to be their next head basketball coach, and Michigan ended up winning out to get Dusty May. I actually thought Dusty May was going to go to Louisville. It looked like that was on the cards. No pun intended for the Cardinals, but that was not meant to be. And now the Michigan Wolverines got their guy. I'm going to go over whether Dusty May is the right hire for the Michigan Wolverines and whether he will be able to turn around their basketball program. Now, when a lot of people think of Dusty May, they think of a young guy who hasn't been a head coach for very long and that he doesn't have a lot of experience, which is a red flag when it comes to possibly hiring him for a big job. But Dusty May is 47 years old. He's still on the relatively young side. So now that he is at the Michigan Wolverines, if he does a good job, he could potentially be their head coach for the next 15 to 20 years. But he does have more coaching experience than one would believe. He was a graduate assistant at Indiana when Bob Knight was the head coach, which is why a lot of Indiana fans wanted Dusty May to be the next head basketball coach of the Indiana Hoosiers, but it just wasn't meant to be. Mike Woodson's still getting another year, for better or for worse, at Indiana. So Dusty May, since he is ready to take a bigger job, Indiana just wasn't on the table. But after he was a graduate assistant at Indiana, then he became an assistant coach at various different schools before he became the head coach of Florida Atlantic back in 2018. And as you can see, what he has done at Florida Atlantic year over year, a program that did not have a lot of success prior to him becoming the head coach. And over time, he built it into a program that ended up being very solid in college basketball. In 2021-2022, he won 19 games, made the CBI tournament. And then last year, he made that epic Final Four run. The team won 35 games. And then this season, a little bit of a step back. Granted, Florida Atlantic was in a tougher conference now going to the American Athletic Conference, but they went 25-9, and they made the NCAA tournament, but they lost in the first round to the Northwestern Wildcats in overtime. Very close to being able to advance, but couldn't get the job done. But now Dusty May, it's going to be a whole lot different not being at Florida Atlantic anymore, and now he's going to have to be coaching in the Big Ten. And is he ready for the job? I believe that Dusty May, despite the success that he has had at Florida Atlantic, is still a little bit of a mystery, because I have said this before when it comes to Dusty May. He was this close to not ever making that Final Four run at Florida Atlantic last year. He only beat Memphis by 1 point in the round of 64, and it took a turnover from the Tigers in the final 10 seconds for Florida Atlantic to get the ball back, and then they were able to win that game when they made a bucket. And that's great. March Madness, it's always about the lucky bounces sometimes. Sometimes you just have to have the right matchup, and then things break your way and you're able to advance. You could even be the best team in the tournament and lose to a team that's much worse than you on a bad day. So I'm not saying Dusty May doesn't deserve a lot of credit for that Final Four run, because he has done a fantastic job at that school year over year building it up. So you can tell that there was a progression there. But still, if Dusty May didn't make that Final Four run, I don't really think Michigan or Louisville or any of these other high major jobs would have been looking at Dusty May to possibly be their next head basketball coach. And then this year, they didn't make a big run, but I think it was based off what he did last year. That is why he was able to be a hot candidate for all these jobs. But I thought Dusty May was going to go to Louisville, and maybe the reason why Michigan won out for his services is because Louisville's in the ACC, and they're not a part of the top two conferences right now when it comes to college basketball and college football. The Big Ten and the SEC, they're running the NCAA right now. They're running college athletics, and maybe Dusty May didn't want to go to the Louisville Cardinals and be in the wrong conference that could possibly be broken up in the future if some ACC teams end up going to the SEC or the Big Ten or even the Big 12, if the ACC does end up falling apart in a few years. And that's very tough for Louisville, because the Cardinals are a great job, and I would argue that Louisville is a better basketball job than the Michigan Wolverines, because Louisville is more of a basketball school. Louisville football is decent, and they have had some success recently, but Louisville is more predominantly a basketball school, and they have a fantastic fan base. And even though they've been losing a lot, they still are a well-renowned basketball program with several national championships, even though one of the ones Rick Pitino won was taken away, and their fans want to win. And the Michigan Wolverines, yes, they've had success in the past, but they don't have as many national championships as Louisville, and they're more of a football school. The Michigan football team gets way more of the attention and praise than Michigan basketball basketball, despite Michigan basketball having their moments. And Dusty May, you would think maybe he would want to be the head coach of a bona fide basketball school, but I think it's because the Michigan Wolverines, again, being in the Big Ten, one of the top 2 super conferences, that's where Dusty May wants to be. And since Indiana wasn't open, I think he would have taken the Indiana job if Indiana was available. And Michigan, they were looking at Nate Oates as well. Nate Oates has coached in Michigan before at a high school, but Alabama gave him a contract extension knowing that Nate Oates was a possibility for that job. But Alabama is a very solid job in its own right now in college basketball because the Crimson Tide are funding the basketball program very well. So now Dusty May was available. It came down to Louisville and to Michigan, and the Michigan Wolverines ended up getting him. And this is what I wrote on Twitter. This came a bit out of left field. As long as Dusty May can translate his success at the mid-major level to the Power 5 level, then this should be a good hire for Michigan. The only question is, who is Louisville going to hire now? And this is what some people have written in the comment section. Jackson wrote the James Madison head coach Mark Byington, which it looks like he could possibly go to West Virginia. That's not set in stone yet, but that is a possibility. Northwestern head coach Chris Collins could go to Louisville. That wouldn't be a bad option. He has built Northwestern into a solid college basketball program, despite the fact Northwestern had literally no success prior to him becoming the head coach. So that could be a possibility for Louisville. I would not mind that hire. Grand Canyon head coach Bryce Drew, he could get the job, and that seems like a likely option because Bryce Drew was at Vanderbilt. He got fired, but now he's turned things around at Grand Canyon. Maybe Louisville wouldn't want to hire a guy that is from that small of a program. I know Dusty May was as well, but Dusty May's a bit more high profile than Bryce Drew, but Chris Collins and Bryce Drew would be my top 2 options for Louisville out of this list that Jackson has sent in. And then college basketball analyst Jay Wright, that's not going to happen. I know people think Jay Wright's going to take a job, but he's not going to take the Louisville job. He wasn't going to take the Ohio State job. I don't see Jay Wright taking any type of job. He should stay a commentator. He doesn't like the NIL and the portal game. Another person said wanted him at Louisville. I don't know who we get now. That's a tough blow for the Louisville Cardinals to not get Dusty May. I thought he would be a perfect fit at Louisville. It seemed like a done deal, but it just did not happen. And then someone else made a joke. You know who it should be, Mike Woodson. That's hilarious. But another person said, I'll be curious to see how many Florida Atlantic players May brings with him since their top 4 scorers were all juniors. And that could be a big help for the Michigan Wolverines because even though Dusty May is kind of getting hired fairly early and he should be able to get a jump on the transfer portal now that he's becoming the new Michigan head coach a little bit earlier than some of these other teams who are still playing in the NCAA tournament, he's still a little bit behind some of these other teams that are already eliminated from the tournament that have already gotten a jump on the transfer portal recruiting. So I think Dusty May should bring a few of his players over from Florida Atlantic. They are capable basketball players. They've helped lead the Owls to 2 NCAA tournament appearances. So I think they would be able to translate that success over to the Michigan Wolverines. I think Dusty May is a great hire for either Michigan or Louisville. Michigan ended up getting him. I think it's going to be tough for him to adjust to the Big Ten, but I do think with more resources and the style of play that Dusty May has shown, I think it is more likely than not that he will have success with the Wolverines. I don't think it's a slam dunk hire like a lot of people are saying, that he's just going to go out there and take Michigan to Elite 8 and Final Fours and national championships. Maybe he will. It is very well possible that he could in the future, but I think it's going to take Dusty May some time to be able to turn around Michigan. It would have been the same way at Louisville because both these programs are in the toilet right now, but with the portal and NIL, you can turn around a program fairly quickly, and I give Dusty May around an 80 to 85% chance that it will work out at Michigan. It's going to be tough with all the competitive teams in that conference and then the teams coming over from the Pac-12, but I think Dusty May is a good hire, but this is a massive L for the Louisville Cardinals not to land Dusty May. He was their best option for the job, and now they're going to have to find a way to get somebody else. There's still some good names out there, so we'll see who they end up with, whether it's Chris Collins, Bryce Drew, or somebody else. But I think for the Michigan Wolverines, Nate Oates was their first option. They didn't land him, and Dusty May is a good hire for the Michigan Wolverines. It has a better than 75% chance to work out, and if it does, then the Michigan Wolverines should be able to turn around their basketball program and be able to have a lot of success in the future like they've had in the past. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Comment down below what you think about Dusty May surprisingly taking the Michigan job instead of the Louisville job, and who you think the Louisville Cardinals should hire to be their next head coach, and whether you believe Dusty May will work out as the Michigan basketball head coach. Follow me on Twitter as well. Link is in the description, and I'll see you next time.